So, Elden's DLC has given us over 100 new weapons. Now, obviously, with a number like that, you're bound to get a few stinkers. But even with that expectation, the quality of these weapons is more over the place than I thought it would be. Some weapons are great, some weapons were bad but were buffed into being great. But then you get some weapons that just make you ask, why? Why on earth is this part of the game? For example, we get two new thrusting shields, and one of them directly outclasses the other in every way that matters. We get a new fire dagger from the Fire Knights, and it's just directly outclassed by a dagger that you get in the first area of the game, at its own supposed strongest affinity. We have this entire new weapon class of perfumes, and they're just completely useless for no reason. And yet all of this pales in comparison to this one weapon. The Golem Fists. You'd be forgiven if you didn't even know that this weapon even existed. It has a 3% drop chance from an enemy that you're most likely to run away from, just because of how tedious they are to fight. It's just not very good in general. Now, what is this weapon all about anyway? It's a smith script weapon. And like other smith script weapons in this game, you get this cool projectile when you do a heavy attack that costs no FP. Now, all smith script weapons kinda suck as of now. They get much less poise damage than their non-throwable counterparts. They consume much more stamina, and you can't use weapon buffs on them. So this weapon already is at a disadvantage. But it gets worse. You only get your projectiles on a heavy attack, whereas other throwable weapons give you more options like throwing while jumping, or on a horse, or in a running heavy attack. Here you just get nothing. And you don't even get a unique animation for your heavy attacks, it's just a regular heavy attack from the sisters. But it's even worse than that, because unlike the sisters, you don't get a heavy attack combo. You only get the first attack in the combo. Now, this is actually normal for other throwable weapons, but they don't really use animations like this one, so it feels more justified there. If you've tried a smith script weapon build before, you probably know they suck. But you also probably know that there are a few talismans that you can use to make them suck less. Namely the Smithic Talisman to boost your projectiles, the Axe Talisman, which boosts your charged heavy attacks, which are also projectiles, so they synergize well. And of course you can pair them with the Spiked Crack tier for even more damage. Finally, the Arrow's Reach Talisman, which rather unintuitively lowers the damage drop-off of these projectile attacks, and of course, none of these work with this weapon. And it makes no fucking sense whatsoever. Did I forget to say that this is also the heaviest fist weapon in the game? Because, well, it is, by far. Of course, you don't get too many Ash 4 options, and the Roaring Ash 4 replace your heavy attacks, and you don't want that. This is also a problem with other Smith script weapons, but then I just used the Shriek of Sorrow to get a free weapon buff, while keeping my heavy attack. Except when I tried doing it here, I somehow got even less damage on my heavy attacks, which is just... why? Why does this weapon have so many problems? Now, I know what you're waiting for. Surely there is something that saves this weapon, something that makes it worth using. And there kind of is, but not really. In patch 1.15, FromSoft added a hitbox to the melee part of the heavy attack, and because of that, the melee range with a heavy affinity. This has the highest damaging heavy attack of all fist weapons, if you're not using any buffs or talismans. So if you really like using heavy attacks with fist weapons, this might be worth using for you, because although you get much less stance damage and consume much more stamina, you get considerably higher damage, and you free up 1 or 2 talisman slots. Hopefully they do fix these bugs, because it has the potential of being one of the best weapons in the game. It's certainly one of the coolest ones, I think. Now let's try to make a build out of it anyway. This is what I settled on. It's a bleed build, because of course it is. We're trying to capitalize on this weapon hitting 4 times in a row on a heavy attack, so we're using the consecutive attack talismans and the Thorn Crack tier. And since charged heavy attacks are our bread and butter, I'm also using the Blade of Mercy for 20% more damage on a reboost. And of course the Lord of Blood's Exaltation for 20% more damage when we do Brock Bleed. If you want to see me use this weapon against a few bosses, subscribe because I'll have a video out soon.